The leather journal in my kitchen drawer contained my wife's deepest secrets. Love letters to a man who wasn't me. $47,000 stolen from our family. A daughter who might not be mine. And a neighbor who knew way too much about my marriage. My name is Graham Foster. I'm 44 years old, and up until 3 months ago, I thought I had it all figured out. I own a window and door installation company here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Built it from the ground up 15 years back, and it's done well enough to give my family a comfortable life. My wife, Jessica, she's 42, works as a sales manager for a medical equipment company. Smart woman, always closing deals, always on her phone. We've got 2 kids, Caleb, who just turned 12 and thinks he's too cool for everything, and Hannah, our 10-year-old who still believes her old man hung the moon. 19 years. That's how long Jessica and I have been married. Started dating when I was 23, working construction and barely scraping by. She was 21, fresh out of college with that business degree and big dreams. We got married 2 years later in a small ceremony her parents paid for because I couldn't afford the ring she deserved. But we made it work. We always made it work. Or so I thought. It was a Tuesday morning in late February when everything changed. The kind of morning where the sky looks like wet concrete and the air smells like rain that hasn't fallen yet. I was in the kitchen, coffee brewing, trying to find a pen to write a note for Jessica about picking up Caleb from baseball practice. The junk drawer, you know, the one every house has, was stuck halfway open. I yanked it hard, and the whole thing came loose, spilling paper clips, rubber bands, old receipts, and takeout menus across the counter. That's when I saw it. A small leather journal, dark brown, wedged in the back behind a stack of expired coupons. It wasn't ours. At least, I'd never seen it before. The leather was worn smooth, like someone had been handling it for years. I picked it up, flipped it open to a random page, and my stomach dropped straight through the floor. Owen, my dearest Owen. Last night I dreamed about that summer in Portland again. The way you held me on the hotel balcony, the city lights spreading out below us like scattered diamonds. Do you remember? I told you then that I'd never felt more alive. That's still true. Even now, after all these years, you're the only one who really sees me. The handwriting was Jessica's. That looping cursive she used for birthday cards and grocery lists. But these weren't grocery lists. These were love letters. To someone named Owen. Someone who wasn't me. My hand started shaking. I flipped to another page. I know what we're doing is complicated, but when I close my eyes, it's your face I see. Graham's a good man, a good provider, but he's not you. He's never been you. The coffee pot beeped, loud and jarring in the silent kitchen. I stood there, holding that journal, feeling like the floor had turned to quicksand beneath my feet. Upstairs, I heard the shower shut off. Jessica would be down in 5 minutes, hair damp, rushing to grab her protein shake before heading to work. I shoved the journal back into the drawer, my heart hammering against my ribs. The pen I'd been looking for rolled off the counter and hit the tile floor with a sharp crack that made me flinch. Graham. Jessica's voice floated down the stairs. You okay down there? I picked up the pen, my throat tight. Yeah, just clumsy. She appeared in the doorway moments later, wrapped in her blue bathrobe, her blonde hair dark with water. She smiled at me, that same smile I'd been seeing for 19 years, and I wondered how long she'd been hiding this. How long she'd been writing love letters to another man while sleeping in my bed, raising my kids, living in the house my company paid for. You look pale, Jessica said, walking over to pour herself coffee. You feeling all right? I nodded, not trusting my voice. She kissed my cheek, grabbed her travel mug, and headed for the garage. Don't forget Caleb's practice, she called over her shoulder. 6 o'clock. The garage door rumbled open, then closed. Her car engine started, faded down the street. I stood alone in my kitchen, staring at that junk drawer, and realized I had no idea who I'd been married to all these years. The next 3 days were torture. I moved through my life like a man underwater, everything muffled and distant. At job sites, I catch myself staring at a window frame for 10 minutes straight, my crew giving me sideways looks. At home, I watched Jessica like a hawk, studying every smile, every phone call, every time she said she was working late. On Thursday night, she mentioned it casually over dinner. Hannah was pushing peas around her plate, while Caleb scrolled through his phone under the table. I'm thinking of starting morning walks again, Jessica said, spearing a piece of chicken. Dr. Reynolds says I need more cardio. My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. Morning walks? You haven't done those since last summer. She shrugged, not meeting my eyes. Well, it's almost spring. Might as well start now. Besides, I need to clear my head before work. All those sales calls get stressful. Where are you planning to walk? I kept my voice neutral. Probably just around the neighborhood. Maybe down to Freedom Park if I'm feeling ambitious. She smiled at Hannah. Honey, eat your vegetables. I nodded, cutting my steak with more force than necessary. The knife scraped against the plate, making Jessica glance up. You okay, Graham? She asked. You've been weird lately. Just tired, I lied. Big install job in Ballantine next week. Commercial building, 40 windows. That satisfied her. She went back to her phone, probably checking emails. Probably checking messages from Owen. Friday morning, my alarm went off at 5:30. Jessica stirred beside me, but didn't wake. I dressed in the dark, grabbed my keys, and headed out to my truck. Parked it 2 blocks over on Elm Street where I could see her driveway, but she wouldn't spot me. At 6:15, her car backed out. I followed, keeping 3 vehicles between us like I'd seen in cop shows. The sunrise painted the sky pink and orange, the kind of morning that used to make me feel grateful. Now it just felt like a spotlight on my misery. Jessica didn't head toward Freedom Park. Instead, she drove east on Providence Road, past the shopping centers and strip malls, into an older part of town where the streetlights still had that yellow glow. She turned into the parking lot of an abandoned rec center, the kind of place that had been shut down for budget cuts years ago. Chain link fence sagging, basketball hoops bent and rusted. I pulled into a gas station across the street, positioned my truck behind a dumpster. Through my binoculars, the ones we used for birdwatching on beach vacations, I watched Jessica park in the far corner under a dead oak tree. She didn't get out, just sat there, engine running, staring at her phone. Then she pulled out that leather journal and started reading, her lips moving like she was saying the words out loud. After maybe 5 minutes, she picked up her phone and made a call. Even from this distance, I could see her face transform. That smile, the real one she used to give me when we were dating. The way her shoulders relaxed. How she leaned back against the headrest like she was finally home. She talked for 23 minutes. I counted every one. When she hung up, she wiped her eyes. Crying or laughing, I couldn't tell. Maybe both. She wrote something in the journal, kissed her fingers, pressed them to the page like she was blessing it. Then she started her car and drove away. I sat in that gas station parking lot for another 10 minutes, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. A homeless guy pushing a shopping cart gave me a strange look. I didn't care. My wife was having some kind of emotional affair with a ghost from her past, meeting him in parking lots like a teenager sneaking around, writing him love letters while I paid the mortgage on the house where she slept. The morning sun climbed higher. Traffic picked up on Providence Road. My phone buzzed with a text from my foreman about a delivery delay. I started the truck and headed to work, but I couldn't shake the image of Jessica's face in that car. She looked happy. Really, genuinely happy. She hadn't looked at me like that in years. I followed Jessica 3 more times that week. Same routine every morning. Drive to that abandoned rec center, sit in her car, read that journal, make her phone call. Wednesday morning, I decided enough was enough. Thursday, I didn't hide behind the gas station dumpster. I parked right next to her. The look on her face when she saw my truck pull up was something I'll never forget. Pure terror, like a deer caught in headlights. She scrambled to shove the journal under her seat, but it was too late. I'd already seen it. I got out of my truck and walked to her driver's side window. She rolled it down slowly, her face pale in the early morning light. Graham, she said, her voice shaking. What are you doing here? Could ask you the same thing, I said, keeping my voice level. Freedom Park's in the other direction, Jess. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came out. How long? I asked. How long what? Don't insult me. I leaned down so we were eye to eye. How long have you been in love with Owen Lancaster? Her face went from pale to ghost white. I'm not. The journal, Jessica. I found it 3 weeks ago in a junk drawer. Read every single letter you wrote to him. My voice stayed calm, which surprised me. I'd expected to yell, to rage, but instead I felt cold, dead inside. So I'll ask again. How long? She started crying then, mascara running down her cheeks in black rivers. Graham, please. It's not what you think. Then explain it to me. I crossed my arms. Make me understand why my wife of 19 years is writing love letters to her college boyfriend. He's dying, she whispered. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The doctors gave him 6 months last October. That hit me like a punch to the gut, but I didn't let it show. And that makes this okay. No. God, no. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. He reached out to me 6 months ago. Found me on social media. Said he had something important to tell me before he died. I thought it was closure, Graham. Just closure. Closure. I repeated flatly. Is that what you call telling him he's the only one who really sees you? That I'm a good provider, but I'm not him. She flinched like I'd slapped her. Yeah, I read that one. I pulled my phone from my pocket, opened my photos. I'd taken pictures of every page in that journal. I read all of them. Every word about how you dream about him. How you wonder what life would have been like if you'd married him instead. Real closure, Jess. I never cheated on you, she said desperately. I swear, Graham. It's just phone calls and letters. That's all. Just emotional affair then. I straightened up, looked down at her. That's supposed to make me feel better. She reached for my hand through the window. I stepped back. Go home, I said. We'll talk when I get there tonight. And Jessica, I waited until she looked at me. Bring that journal with you. Every single letter. Because we're going to go through them together. And you're going to explain every lie you've been telling me while I've been working 60-hour weeks to pay for the house where you write love letters to another man. I got back in my truck and drove away, leaving her crying in that parking lot. My hands were steady on the wheel. My jaw was set. I didn't feel sad or angry. I felt determined. By the time I got to my office, I'd already called Henderson and Associates, the divorce attorneys whose billboards lined I-77. Made an appointment for tomorrow afternoon. If Jessica wanted to play games, I'd show her what happened when you gambled with a man who had nothing left to lose. Jessica was waiting in the kitchen when I got home that night. The journal sat on the table between us like a loaded gun. Caleb and Hannah were upstairs doing homework, their voices carrying down the hallway. I brought it, she said quietly, not meeting my eyes. I sat down across from her, opened the journal to the first page. Start talking. She took a shaky breath. Owen and I dated for 2 years in college. He was my first real relationship. When we graduated, he got a job offer in Seattle, and I stayed here for grad school. We tried long distance for a while, but it fell apart. Then I met you, and you never stopped loving him. I moved on, she insisted. I built a life with you, Graham. We have children, a home, a marriage. Then why this? I held up the journal. Why tell him he's the only one who really knows you? Her eyes filled with tears again, because when he called last October and told me he was dying, all those old feelings came rushing back. I was 21 again, sitting in his dorm room, thinking the world was ours for the taking. I know it's stupid and selfish, but I couldn't help it. So you started an affair. It's not an affair. Her voice rose. I've never touched him. I've never even seen him in person since college. It's just phone calls, Graham. Just words. Words matter, Jess. I flipped through pages, reading passages aloud. You're the only one who ever really understood me. When I close my eyes, it's your face I see. I wonder what life would have been like if I'd chosen you. I looked up at her. These aren't just words. This is you telling another man you wish you'd married him instead of me. She buried her face in her hands. I'm sorry. God, Graham, I'm so sorry. Where is he? I asked. Where's Owen? Boston. Mass General Hospital. I pulled out my phone, started taking pictures of every page in the journal. Jessica watched, her face crumbling. What are you doing? Documenting evidence, I said calmly. I have a meeting with a divorce attorney tomorrow at 3. These letters prove emotional infidelity. In North Carolina, that affects alimony and asset division. Divorce. She stood up so fast her chair scraped against the tile. Graham, please. Don't do this. Think about the kids. I'm thinking about the kids. I kept photographing pages, the camera flash making her flinch each time. I'm thinking about what kind of example we set if I let this slide. If I teach Caleb it's okay for his wife to tell another man she loves him. If I teach Hannah it's okay to betray someone who's been faithful to you for 19 years. It's not like that, she pleaded. Owen's dying. Once he's gone, this will all be over. I stopped photographing, looked at her directly. And what about the next one? The next old flame who slides into your DMs? The next guy who makes you feel 21 again? I shook my head. You broke something here, Jess. Something I don't think can be fixed. She sank back in her chair, sobbing. Upstairs, Caleb called down asking what was for dinner. Normal kid question in a house that was falling apart. I'll order pizza. I called back, my voice steady. Then to Jessica, you can stay tonight. Tell the kids whatever you want. But tomorrow, you're moving in with your sister until we figure this out. And Jessica, I waited until she looked at me through her tears. If I find out you've been lying about anything else, if there's more to this story than phone calls and letters, I will take you for everything you've got. I left her crying at the kitchen table and went upstairs to read bedtime stories to Hannah, who still thought her parents were invincible. Jessica moved out that Friday. Watching her pack clothes into suitcases while Hannah cried in her room felt like watching my life dissolve in slow motion. But I kept my face stone cold, helped carry boxes to her car without saying a word. Caleb stood in the driveway, arms crossed, not saying goodbye. That told me everything I needed to know about whose side he was on. My lawyer, Richard Henderson, was a shark in a three-piece suit. 50-something, silver hair, the kind of guy who smiled when he smelled blood in the water. His office overlooked uptown Charlotte, all glass and steel and expensive leather furniture. Emotional infidelity, he said, flipping through the photos I provided. In North Carolina, this gives us leverage. She can fight for alimony, but with this evidence, we can argue marital misconduct. What does that mean for me? I asked. Means she gets less. Maybe nothing if we play it right. Henderson leaned back in his chair. But I need you to be honest with me, Graham. Is there anything else? Any other secrets she might be hiding? Not that I know of. Then let's dig. He hit the intercom. Janet, give me a forensic accountant. Best one we've got. 3 days later, I got a call that changed everything. Mr. Foster. Janet's voice was crisp over the phone. Mr. Henderson needs you to come in immediately. We found something. I left the job site in Cornelius and drove straight downtown. Henderson's face was grim when I walked into his office. A woman in her 40s sat beside him, laptop open, spreadsheets covering the screen. Graham, this is Patricia Nguyen, forensic accountant. Henderson gestured to the woman. Pat, show him what you found. Patricia turned the laptop toward me. Mr. Foster, do you recognize this account? I squinted at the screen. Account number, ending in 4729, Bank of America. No, never seen it. It's in your wife's name. Opened 3 years ago. Patricia clicked through tabs. She's been transferring money into it regularly. 500 here, 800 there, sometimes as much as 2,000. My stomach dropped. How much total? $47,000. Patricia highlighted a number at the bottom. All from your joint checking account. Small enough amounts that you probably didn't notice, but consistent enough to add up. I stared at the number, my vision going blurry around the edges. 47,000. That's not even the worst part, Henderson said. Pat, show him the outgoing transfers. Patricia clicked again. A list of transactions appeared, all going to the same place. Massachusetts General Hospital, Boston. Patient account for Owen Lancaster. She's been paying his medical bills. I said slowly. The room felt too hot suddenly. Our money. Money that should have gone to Caleb's college fund, to Hannah's braces fund. She's been sending it to him. Gets better, Henderson said grimly. Pat, the life insurance. Patricia pulled up another document. Your wife changed the beneficiary on her life insurance policy 6 months ago. $250,000 policy through her employer. The beneficiary was you and your children. She changed it to Owen Lancaster. The words hit me like a freight train. She what? She removed you and put him down as primary beneficiary. Patricia repeated. If something happened to her, Owen gets $250,000. I stood up, walked to the window, stared down at the traffic 20 floors below. People going about their normal days while my world imploded. 20 years of marriage, 2 kids, a business I built from nothing, and she'd been planning to give everything to a dying man she hadn't seen in 2 decades. Graham. Henderson's voice cut through my thoughts. You okay? I turned around. Can we use this? Can we use it? Henderson's smile was predatory. This is fraud. She stole from your joint account to fund her affair partner's medical care. Change beneficiaries without your knowledge. North Carolina courts do not look kindly on this kind of financial misconduct. What do? We file an emergency motion. Freeze all accounts. Demand full financial disclosure. And we go for everything. Henderson stood up. buttoned his suit jacket. She wanted to play games? She just handed us a nuclear bomb. I looked at Patricia's laptop screen again. $47,000. The number burned into my brain. That was Hannah's orthodontics. That was the new truck I've been putting off buying. That was vacations we never took because I thought we were saving for the future. Do it, I said. File everything. I want her to understand what happens when you betray someone who trusted you. Henderson nodded. Pal will need to examine all your financial records. Credit cards, bank statements, everything. If she's been hiding this, there might be more. Whatever you need. I grabbed my keys. I need to get back to my kids. Driving home, I call my brother Matteo. Younger than me by 5 years. Married with a baby daughter. Lived 20 minutes away in Fort Mill. We'd always been close, talked every week, helped each other with home repairs and family stuff. Matteo, it's Graham. You busy? Just leaving work. What's up? Can you come by the house tonight? After the kids go to bed. I need to talk to you about something. There was a pause. Everything okay? No, I said honestly. Nothing's okay, but I need family right now. I'll be there at 9, Matteo said without hesitation. That's what brothers do. Matteo showed up at 9:15 with a six-pack of beer and a grim expression. We sat on the back deck, the March air cool enough that we needed jackets. Inside, Caleb and Hannah were asleep. The house was quiet except for crickets and distant traffic. So Jessica's gone, Matteo said, twisting the cap off his beer. Mom called me. Said she's staying with her sister. Yeah. I took a long drink. Found out she's been having an emotional affair with her college ex-boyfriend. Guy's dying of cancer up in Boston. Matteo whistled low. Man, I'm sorry. That's rough. Gets worse. I told him about the secret bank account, the $47,000, the life insurance policy. Matteo's face got darker with each revelation. She stole from you, he said flatly. From your kids. That's what the lawyer says. I stared out at the yard Jessica and I had landscaped together 5 years ago. 20 years, Matteo. I thought we were solid. You were solid, Matteo said. She's the one who broke it. We sat in silence for a while, drinking beer, listening to the night sounds. Then Matteo shifted in his chair, not meeting my eyes. Graham, I need to tell you something. Something in his tone made my stomach clench. What? I've been wanting to say this for months, but... He rubbed his face with both hands. Man, this is hard. Just say it. Matteo took a deep breath. I saw Jessica with another man. It was back in July, at that new Italian place on Park Road. I was there with Vicky for our anniversary dinner. Jessica was in the back corner with some guy. They were holding hands across the table. The beer bottle nearly slipped from my grip. What? I confronted her the next day. Matteo continued, his voice rough. Called her, told her what I'd seen. She begged me not to tell you. Said it was just a friend from work. Nothing serious. Said if I told you, it would destroy the family. So you said nothing. My voice came out flat. Dead. I thought. Matteo's face twisted. I thought maybe it was innocent. Maybe I'd misread the situation. And she's family, Graham. You guys have kids. I didn't want to blow up your marriage over something that might have been nothing. Holding hands across the table, I said slowly. That's not nothing. I know. God, I know that now. Matteo set down his beer, looked at me directly. But here's the part that makes me sick. When I confronted her, when she was begging me to keep quiet, he paused, swallowed hard. She kissed me. The world stopped spinning. What did you just say? She kissed me, Matteo said miserably. Right there in your driveway. Said if I kept my mouth shut, she'd make it worth my while. I pushed her away immediately, told her she was crazy. But Graham, she tried. Your wife tried to seduce me to keep me quiet about her affair. I stood up, so fast my chair tipped backward. Get out, Graham. Get out of my house. My voice came out as a roar. You saw my wife cheating. You said nothing for 3 months, and you're just now telling me she tried to kiss you? I should have told you immediately. Matteo stood, hands up like he was calming a wild animal. I know I should have. I made the wrong call. I was trying to protect you, protect the kids, protect me. I laughed, sharp and bitter. You let me live a lie for 3 months while knowing my wife was cheating. That's not protection, Matteo. That's betrayal. I'm sorry. His voice broke. I'm so sorry, Graham. Sorry doesn't cut it. I walked to the deck stairs, gestured toward his truck. Leave. Now. And don't come back until I decide if I can forgive this. Matteo's face crumpled. You're my brother. Yeah. Well, brothers don't lie to each other. I turned my back on him. They sure as hell don't keep secrets that destroy families. I heard him leave, heard his truck start, and pull away. Then I was alone on my deck, hands shaking, heart pounding. My wife had betrayed me. My brother had lied to me. And somewhere in Boston, Owen Lancaster was probably laughing about how he'd won Jessica's heart, while I'd been working myself to death, trying to provide for a family that was falling apart. I went inside, locked the doors, and sat in the dark living room until dawn, thinking about all the ways the people I trusted had destroyed me, and planning exactly how I'd make sure they all paid for it. The emergency hearing was set for Monday morning. Henderson moved fast, filing motions to freeze all accounts and requesting sanctions for financial misconduct. Jessica's lawyer, some young guy fresh out of law school, looked like he'd walked into a buzzsaw. Judge Patricia Williamson had a reputation. 30 years on the bench, zero tolerance for lies, and a particular distaste for anyone who stole from their family. She reviewed the evidence while we sat in uncomfortable silence. Jessica wouldn't look at me. Good. I didn't want to see her face. Mrs. Foster, Judge Williamson said, peering over her reading glasses. These financial records show you opened a secret account 3 years ago. Is that correct? Jessica's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client was helping a terminally ill friend. I asked Mrs. Foster. The judge interrupted. Not you. Jessica stood slowly, her voice barely audible. Yes, Your Honor. And you transferred $47,000 from your joint marital account to this secret account without your husband's knowledge. Yes, Your Honor. Then sent that money to Owen Lancaster in Boston to pay his medical expenses. Jessica's face went red. He was dying. I couldn't just. Answer the question, Mrs. Foster. Yes. Jessica's voice broke. I sent him money. Judge Williamson set down the papers. And this life insurance policy. You changed the beneficiary from your husband and children to Mr. Lancaster. When? 6 months ago. Jessica whispered. Speak up. 6 months ago, Your Honor. The judge turned to Henderson. Mr. Henderson, your motion for sanctions? Your Honor, Mrs. Foster committed financial fraud. She stole from the marital estate to fund an affair. She changed beneficiaries on a policy purchased with marital funds. We're requesting full reimbursement of the $47,000, all attorney fees, and primary custody of the minor children due to demonstrated untrustworthiness. Jessica's lawyer jumped up. Your Honor, that's excessive. Sit down. Judge Williamson's voice could cut steel. She looked at Jessica for a long moment. Mrs. Foster, do you deny having an emotional affair with Owen Lancaster? Silence. Jessica's lawyer leaned over, whispered something to her. No, Your Honor. I don't deny it. Do you deny that your actions constitute a breach of marital trust and financial misconduct? More silence. Then, quietly, no, Your Honor. Judge Williamson wrote something in her notes. Here's what's going to happen. All accounts are frozen effective immediately. Mrs. Foster will provide full financial disclosure within 48 hours. Any further transfers will result in contempt charges. Temporary custody goes to Mr. Foster, with supervised visitation for Mrs. Foster, pending psychological evaluation. Jessica gasped. Your Honor, please. Furthermore, the judge continued, Mrs. Foster will reimburse the marital estate the full $47,000 within 90 days, or the amount will be deducted from her share of asset division. The life insurance beneficiary will be immediately restored to Mr. Foster and the minor children. Any violation of these orders will result in jail time. Am I clear? Yes, Your Honor, Jessica said, tears streaming down her face. Mr. Foster, the judge looked at me. You'll maintain the marital home. Mrs. Foster will arrange to collect personal items under supervision. Court is adjourned. I'll see you both back here in 30 days for the custody hearing. The gavel struck. Henderson grabbed my arm, grinned like a wolf. That's what winning looks like. Outside the courthouse, Jessica tried to approach me. Her lawyer held her back. Graham, please, she called out. Can we talk? I kept walking. Henderson beside me, briefcase swinging. Graham. Her voice rose, desperate. What am I supposed to tell the kids? I stopped, turned around. 20 feet of concrete and broken promises between us. Tell them the truth, I said. Tell them their mother stole from them to pay for her affair. Tell them she loved a dying man more than she loved her own family. Tell them actions have consequences. Her face crumpled. I turned away and didn't look back. In the parking garage, I sat in my truck for 10 minutes, hands on the steering wheel, breathing slowly. I'd won. The judge had given me everything I'd asked for. So why did I feel like I just survived a car accident? My phone buzzed. A text from Caleb. Dad, is it true Mom has to leave? Hannah won't stop crying. I started the truck, headed home to my kids who needed me to be strong when I felt like breaking apart. That's what being a father meant. You held it together, even when everything inside you was screaming. 2 weeks after the hearing, something happened that changed everything. I was at a job site in Matthews, installing bay windows in a new construction, when Henderson called. Graham, I need you to come to the office. Now. Something in his voice made my stomach drop. What's wrong? Just get here. You need to see this in person. I told my foreman to finish without me and drove to Uptown doing 70 in a 55 zone. Henderson's face was grim when I walked in. Patricia Nguyen sat beside him again, her expression carefully neutral. What is it? I asked. Henderson slid a folder across the desk. During the financial discovery, we found something in Jessica's email account. Medical correspondence. I opened the folder. Email printouts, dozens of them, from a genetic testing company. My vision blurred, trying to make sense of the words. Just tell me, I said. Patricia spoke up. Mr. Foster, according to these emails, your wife ordered DNA tests for both your children 2 years ago. My blood went cold. Why would she do that? Because she wasn't sure you were their father, Henderson said bluntly. The room tilted. What? The emails indicate she had a brief physical relationship with Owen Lancaster approximately 11 years ago. He came to Charlotte for a medical conference. They met up, and 9 months later, Hannah was born. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Hannah, my baby girl who looked up at me with those big blue eyes and called me her hero. The test results are in the emails, Patricia said quietly. Caleb is biologically yours. Hannah. She paused. Hannah is Owen Lancaster's daughter. The folder slipped from my hands. Papers scattered across the expensive carpet. Henderson and Patricia sat silent while I processed a nuclear bomb they just dropped in my lap. She knew. I finally said. Jessica knew for 2 years that Hannah wasn't mine, and she said nothing. The emails suggest she's been in contact with Owen about Hannah, Henderson said, sharing photos, updates on her development. He's been acting as a sort of distant father figure. Does he know? My voice sounded hollow. Does Owen know Hannah's his daughter? According to the emails, yes. Jessica told him after the DNA test confirmed it. Patricia handed me another printout. This email from last year. Jessica writes, Hannah has your eyes. Every time I look at her, I see you. She deserves to know her real father before you're gone. I stood up, walked to the window, pressed my forehead against the cold glass. 10 stories below, Charlotte moved on like normal. While up here, my entire reality was shattering. There's more, Henderson said. Jessica was planning to tell you the truth after Owen died. Wanted to wait until he couldn't contradict her story. She was going to claim it was a one-time thing, a terrible mistake, and beg for your forgiveness. But the money, I said slowly, turning around. The $47,000. That wasn't just for medical bills. No, Patricia confirmed. Some of it went to a lawyer. Jessica was exploring options for Owen to establish legal paternity before his death. She wanted him to have parental rights, to be listed on Hannah's birth certificate. The betrayal was so massive I couldn't process it. My wife had cheated on me, gotten pregnant with another man's child. Let me raise that child as my own for 10 years. Then reconnected with her affair partner and tried to give him legal rights to my daughter. What do? I asked. Henderson's face was stone. We use this. At the custody hearing in 2 weeks, we present this evidence. It proves Jessica's been lying for a decade. No judge will give her primary custody after this. But Hannah, I said, she's 10 years old. She thinks I'm her father. If this comes out in court, it's going to come out eventually, Henderson said. Better it comes out now, when you control the narrative, than later when Jessica can spin it her way. I looked at the scattered papers on the floor. DNA percentages, paternity probabilities, the scientific proof that Hannah, my little girl who still asked me to check for monsters under her bed, wasn't biologically mine. But I'd raised her. I'd walked the floor with her when she had colic. I'd taught her to ride a bike. I'd been there for every scraped knee, every bad dream, every parent-teacher conference. Biology doesn't make you a father, I said quietly. Being there does. Agreed, Henderson said. But legally, this changes everything. Jessica committed paternity fraud. She let you sign Hannah's birth certificate knowing you weren't the biological father. That's a crime in North Carolina. I picked up one of the papers. A photo printout of Hannah at her 4th birthday party. Chocolate cake smeared across her face. Jessica had sent it to Owen with the caption, "Our daughter is growing up so fast." Our daughter. Not my daughter. Ours. File everything, I said, my voice hard as iron. Every email, every DNA test, every lie she's told. I want the judge to see exactly what kind of person Jessica Foster really is. You sure? Henderson asked. Once this goes into the court record, there's no taking it back. Everyone will know. I looked at Hannah's photo one more time, then set on the desk. I'm sure. Jessica wanted to play games with my family. She's about to learn what happens when you gamble with a man who has nothing left to lose. 7 months after the divorce was finalized, I thought I'd finally found solid ground. The kids were adjusting. Caleb had made the honor roll. Hannah was seeing a therapist twice a week to process everything, but she still called me Dad and crawled into my lap when thunderstorms rolled through. Biology be damned. She was mine. I'd started dating again. Nothing serious, just coffee here and there with a woman named Rachel who owned a bakery in Dilworth. She made me laugh, and I'd forgotten what that felt like. Then I ran into Brent Kimball at Home Depot, our neighbor Brent, who lived 3 doors down with his wife and 2 teenage daughters. Guy who'd helped me install that fence 4 years back, who borrowed my pressure washer last summer. We'd had barbecues together, our families. I trusted him. He was loading deck stain into his cart when I came around the corner with lumber. Our eyes met. His face went sheet white. Graham, he said like my name tasted wrong. Hey man. Something in his expression made my stomach clench. The way he couldn't hold eye contact. The nervous shift of his weight. I'd seen that look before on my brother Mateo's face. Brent, I said slowly. You all right? You look like you've seen a ghost. Yeah, no, I'm fine. He wiped his palms on his jeans. Just busy. You know how it is. I didn't know. I knew exactly what guilt looked like when it was standing in the paint aisle at Home Depot, trying to run away. How's Jessica? I asked, watching his reaction. He flinched. Actually flinched. I wouldn't know. Haven't seen her since. Since when, Brent? His face went from white to red. Graham, listen. How long? The lumber in my cart suddenly felt like dead weight. How long were you two sneaking around? It's not what you think. His voice dropped to a whisper. People were starting to stare. Then what is it? I stepped closer. Because from where I'm standing, my neighbor, the guy I trusted, the guy whose kids play with my kids, looks like he's about to confess something. Brent's shoulders sagged. Can we talk somewhere else? Not here. 20 minutes later, we sat in my truck in an empty corner of the parking lot. Brent stared at his hands like they belonged to someone else. It started about a year ago, he said. My marriage was falling apart. Sarah wanted a divorce. Jessica was having issues with you. We were both lonely and... Don't. I cut him off. Don't make excuses. Just tell me the truth. We met up a few times. When you were at work. When Sarah took the girls to her mother's. He couldn't look at me. It was just physical, Graham. No feelings. No future. Just 2 people making terrible decisions. My hands gripped the steering wheel, so hard it creaked. While I was working 60-hour weeks to pay for the house you were screwing my wife in. I'm sorry. His voice broke. God, Graham, I'm sorry. I've been wanting to tell you for months, but I didn't know how. How many times? What? How many times did you sleep with my wife? Each word came out like broken glass. I don't know. Maybe 10. 15. He rubbed his face. We ended it 8 months ago when she started getting serious about that Owen guy. She said she'd made a mistake, that we both had, and we needed to stop before someone got hurt worse. Too late for that, I said flatly. My face turned pale when my buddy Rick told me a few weeks ago he'd seen you two at that Thai place on Park Road. Back in February. Holding hands under the table. I didn't want to believe it. Brent's head snapped up. Rick saw us. Followed you to your car. Watched you kiss her goodbye. I turned to look at him. So, while Jessica was writing love letters to Owen and stealing money from our account, she was also having an affair with my neighbor, the guy I consider a friend. I'm sorry, he repeated uselessly. Get out my truck. Graham. Get out before I do something we'll both regret. My voice stayed level cold. And Brent, start looking for a new neighborhood. Because if I see you on my street again, friend or not, I won't be responsible for what happens. He got out. I watched him walk to his truck, shoulders hunched, carrying the weight of his betrayal. I sat there for another hour, hands shaking, breathing through my nose. Jessica hadn't just betrayed me with Owen. She'd been sleeping with our neighbor, the man whose family we'd shared meals with, whose kids played with mine. The affair wasn't just emotional. It was physical, ongoing, and right under my nose the whole time. I pulled out my phone, called Henderson. We need to reopen the case. I've got new evidence. The amended filing took another 3 months. Henderson's team gathered evidence, interviewed witnesses, subpoenaed phone records. Brent, under threat of being named as a co-defendant, gave a sworn deposition detailing the affair. His marriage imploded. He moved to Raleigh within a month. Jessica tried to fight it, but the evidence was overwhelming. The final custody hearing was brutal. Judge Williamson looked at Jessica with something close to disgust. Mrs. Foster, you've lied under oath, committed financial fraud, engaged in multiple affairs, and attempted to hide a child's true paternity, the judge said. I'm awarding sole legal and physical custody to Mr. Foster. You'll have supervised visitation 1 weekend per month, pending completion of a parenting course and psychological evaluation. Jessica didn't even fight it, just sat there, hollow-eyed, while her lawyer gathered papers. The divorce decree came through on a cold January morning. No alimony. Asset split was 70-30 in my favor. Jessica got her car and whatever was left in her personal accounts after reimbursing the stolen money. I got the house, the business, and full custody of Caleb and Hannah. Standing in my kitchen, holding the final papers, I felt nothing. No triumph, no relief. Just tired. Caleb came downstairs, backpack slung over his shoulder, ready for school. 13 years old now, taller every day, starting to look like me around the eyes. Dad, he said, you okay? Yeah, buddy, I'm okay. I set down the papers. How about we grab breakfast at Mama's kitchen before school? He grinned. Can Hannah come? Of course. Hannah bounded into the kitchen, her hair in a lopsided ponytail she insisted on doing herself. 10 years old, missing 2 front teeth, and absolutely mine in every way that mattered. Pancakes, she asked hopefully. Pancakes, I confirmed. At the restaurant, watching my kids demolate stacks of blueberry pancakes, I realized something. Jessica had taken a lot from me. My trust, my marriage, years of my life. But she hadn't taken what mattered most. These 2 kids, arguing over the last strip of bacon, faces sticky with syrup, still looked at me like I hung the moon. Caleb still asked for help with his homework. Hannah still wanted bedtime stories. They were healing, slowly, and so was I. My phone buzzed. Text from Rachel. Coffee this afternoon? My treat. I smiled, typed back. Sounds good. 3 o'clock? Life moved forward whether you were ready or not. The trick was moving with it. 4 months later, I stood in my backyard at a small gathering. Rachel beside me, her hand in mine. Caleb manning the grill with my supervision. Hannah playing catch with Rachel's son from her first marriage. My crew from work, their families, all of us together on a perfect Carolina afternoon. Rick walked over with beers, grinned at me. You look happy, man. Really happy. Getting there, I said honestly. 1 day at a time. Heard Jessica moved to Virginia. Took a job with some pharmaceutical company. Good for her. And I meant it. The anger had faded to indifference. She was someone I used to know, nothing more. Rachel squeezed my hand. Burgers are ready. We gathered everyone. And as I looked at the faces around my table, at my kids laughing and healthy, at this woman who'd shown me I could trust again, I realized something important. Jessica had tried to destroy me. The betrayals, the lies, the theft, all of it designed to break me down. But I'd refused to break. I'd stood my ground, protected my children, and built something new from the ruins. That was the real victory, not the custody battle or the money. It was this moment, right here, surrounded by people who genuinely cared. People who'd proven through actions, not words, that they had my back. Caleb caught my eye from across the patio, gave me a thumbs up. I returned it. Hannah ran over, wrapped her arms around my waist. Love you, Daddy. Love you too, sweetheart. The sun set over Charlotte in shades of orange and gold. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. But tonight, with my family around me and solid ground beneath my feet, I was exactly where I needed to be.